The Galactic Council's most advanced detection technologies had failed repeatedly against a wave of unknown sabotage within their central station, Celestia Prime. Diplomats and scientists whispered about how the threats bypassed their stringent security systems. The situation was growing dire, with no signs of resolution, until an unexpected delegation from Earth arrived with an unorthodox proposition: dogs. Commander Resk, a towering reptilian Jorvath known for his disdain of Earth's primitive solutions, glared at the human representative, Specialist Aaron Keene. "Are you seriously suggesting that these creatures are more capable than our multi-spectrum sensors?" His words dripped with disbelief, his scaled tail twitching with irritation. Keene didn't flinch. Beside her, a Labrador named Max wagged his tail enthusiastically, oblivious to the tension. "Yes, Commander. Max and his team have proven themselves invaluable in detecting threats humans and technology alike miss. Trust me, he's the expert here." The council chamber buzzed with murmurs, skepticism thick in the air. Yet, with sabotage incidents escalating and no viable alternatives, the council reluctantly approved a trial. Resk's displeasure was palpable, but Keene and her team, both human and canine, set to work immediately. Max and his canine colleagues, a diverse mix of breeds, began their investigation. They moved with an ease and focus that belied their seemingly simple nature. They sniffed corridors, examined cargo holds, and interacted with a variety of alien species. Each bark, tail wag, or quiet growl sent signals to their handlers, who interpreted their findings with precision. Meanwhile, the station's inhabitants watched the dogs with a mix of amusement and bewilderment. A Threxian scientist marveled at the simplicity of their method, muttering, "No advanced neural interface? No quantum analyzers? Just noses?" Yet, when Max barked sharply at an inconspicuous crate, Keene's team uncovered hidden explosives that no scanner had detected. The mood shifted. Skepticism turned to grudging respect. Resk, however, remained unconvinced. "A single success proves nothing," he muttered. His doubts persisted, even as the dogs uncovered more hidden dangers: smuggled biotoxins, cloaked surveillance devices, and encrypted alien artifacts. One evening, as Keene reviewed the day's findings, she noticed Resk watching her from the shadows. His sharp eyes gleamed with curiosity, though his expression remained guarded. "They're not just sniffing for threats," he said, breaking the silence. "They're uniting this station in a way our technology never could. Even I can't deny that." Keene nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. "That's the beauty of them. They bridge gaps, between humans, between species, even between suspicion and trust." As the trial period ended, the council gathered to hear the results. Keene stood confidently before them, flanked by Max and his team. "Not only have these dogs identified threats no technology could," she began, "but they've also reminded us of the power of simple, honest connections in a galaxy often mired in distrust." The room fell silent as council members exchanged thoughtful glances. Even Resk's stern expression softened. When the verdict came, it was unanimous: the dogs had earned their place as the galaxy's premier threat detectors. As Keene and Max left the chamber, a small Threxian child approached them. The child extended a hand tentatively toward Max, who responded with a gentle nuzzle. Watching the scene, Resk murmured to Keene, "Perhaps Earth's solutions aren't so primitive after all." Keene laughed softly. "Just wait until you see what they can do with a tennis ball." The Galactic Council's security protocols were among the most advanced in the known universe. Yet, even after the initial success of Max and his canine team, doubts lingered. Council factions divided into skeptics and cautious believers, with Commander Resk at the forefront of the opposition. Despite undeniable results, his pride clashed with the idea that Earth's primitive creatures outperformed the finest alien technologies. As tensions simmered, a new challenge emerged. Several Council-controlled planets reported mysterious disturbances, subtle but escalating threats that disrupted supply chains, communications, and energy grids. The culprits were cunning, leaving no trace, no energy signatures, no tampered surveillance feeds, nothing. The Council's frustration mounted, and the stakes rose dramatically. Keen found herself summoned to an emergency council meeting. Max trotted beside her, tail wagging as usual, oblivious to the gravity of the situation. When she entered the grand chamber, the tension was palpable. Holographic displays outlined the escalating crises. Blackouts on Corvio 5, sabotaged food shipments to the Erythra colonies, and tampered gravitational stabilizers on asteroid mining outposts. "This is beyond what your animals can handle," Resk growled, slamming a clawed hand on the table. His golden eyes narrowed as he gestured at Max. "If we deploy your Sniffers, and they fail, the cost could be catastrophic." Keen remained calm. "They haven't failed us yet, Commander. Give us a chance, and we'll prove they can handle it." The Council voted, narrowly approving the deployment of Keen's team. Within hours, Keen, Max, and the K9 crew boarded a transport ship bound for Corvio 5, the most critical of the affected planets. Alongside them was a reluctant Resk, ordered by the Council to observe and report. The mission began in the sprawling industrial hub of Corvio 5. Automated factories churned out critical components for interstellar ships, but production had slowed to a crawl. Workers reported strange malfunctions, machines shutting down unexpectedly, raw materials going missing, and unexplained power surges. Yet, inspections revealed no anomalies. Max led the way, sniffing through the factory corridors while his fellow dogs, Luna, a keen-eyed border collie, and Rex, a hulking German shepherd, scoured nearby sectors. Keen followed close behind, monitoring their subtle cues. Resk trailed them, arms crossed, his skepticism written across his scaly face. It didn't take long for Max to react. His tail stiffened, nose twitching as he zeroed in on a seemingly ordinary storage crate. He barked sharply, pawing at the crate's edge. Keen opened it cautiously, revealing what appeared to be harmless scrap metal. But Luna joined Max, her sharp nose detecting something deeper. When Keen scanned the crate with a human-made device, it picked up faint traces of an unusual organic compound. "What is it?" Resk asked, leaning in despite himself. Keen frowned. "A residue I've never seen before. But if Max and Luna are this agitated, it's more than just debris." The team followed the dog's trail, which led them through a maze of corridors to an unregistered ventilation shaft. The air grew colder, carrying an acrid scent that even the humans could detect faintly. Max's bark echoed down the shaft as Rex growled, his hackles raised. "What's down there?" Resk demanded. "Let's find out," Keen replied, her voice steady despite the unease settling over the group. They descended into the shaft, entering a hidden chamber that buzzed faintly with alien energy. At its center was a device, a spindly, web-like structure pulsing with faint green light. Surrounding it were containers marked with symbols none of them recognized. Max approached the device cautiously, sniffing intently before letting out a low, warning growl. Keen's pulse quickened. "This isn't just sabotage, it's something bigger." Resk stepped closer, his analytical mind taking over. "This design, it's not from any council member species. Whoever planted this doesn't want Corvio 5 to recover. They want it to collapse. Then we'd better figure out how to disarm it," Keen said, already scanning the device with her equipment. But as she worked, the room trembled. A deep, resonating hum filled the chamber, and the device's green glow intensified. Luna barked frantically, circling the room as if searching for something unseen. Rex took a defensive stance, positioning himself between the humans and the device. Resk's voice was sharp. "It's destabilizing. If we don't shut it down now—" "Max, what is it?" Keen asked, her eyes following the Labrador as he sniffed around the chamber. He paused near a corner, then barked twice, pawing at a hidden panel. Keen hurried over and pried it open, revealing a set of alien controls. "It's a manual override," she breathed. "Then use it!" Resk snapped. Keen hesitated. The symbols were incomprehensible, and one wrong move could trigger the device. She glanced at Max, who stood alert, his eyes fixed on her. His unwavering focus gave her the courage to trust her instincts. She pressed a series of buttons, guided by nothing more than gut feeling and hope. The device emitted a sharp whine before falling silent. The green glow faded, and the chamber stilled. Keen exhaled, her hands trembling. "That was reckless," Resk muttered, though his tone lacked its usual venom. "But effective." Max barked once, wagging his tail as if to say you're welcome. As they returned to the surface, Keen knew this was only the beginning. The device on Corvio 5 was part of a larger, more sinister plan. Yet the dogs had proven their worth once again, uncovering threats no technology could. Even Resk couldn't deny their growing importance. Back aboard the transport, Resk watched Max with a thoughtful expression. "Your creatures," he said slowly, "are more perceptive than I gave them credit for. But this isn't over." Keen nodded. "No, it's not. And that's why we'll need them more than ever." The hum of the transport ship echoed in the quiet of space as Keen and her team regrouped. The victory on Corvio 5 had come at a cost: time, resources, and the ever-present pressure from the Galactic Council. But it was clear now, what they had uncovered wasn't an isolated incident. This threat extended far beyond Corvio 5. The next stop was Erythra, a vast, desert-like colony on the outer rim of Council territory. Supplies were already dwindling, and the reports coming from Erythra spoke of erratic energy fluctuations, disappearing resources, and growing unease among the colonists. The entire colony seemed on the brink of collapse. As they arrived, the familiar oppressive heat of Erythra enveloped them. Sandstorms swept through the endless desert plains, obscuring vast stretches of the planet. Max and his team were already scanning the landscape, noses to the ground, their senses fine-tuned for danger. Luna took the lead, her sharp eyes darting between the shifting dunes. Max was right beside her, his focus unwavering. Rex followed, his larger frame moving slowly but methodically. Keen watched them with a mix of awe and anxiety, knowing the stakes had escalated beyond what she had anticipated. The first signs of trouble came when the colony's energy grid began to flicker. Power outages grew more frequent, disrupting water pumps, communications, and life support systems. The colonists, already on edge from their isolation, became more paranoid, unable to understand the source of their suffering. Fear spread faster than the desert winds. Keen and Resk had come to an uneasy truce. Though Resk's pride had not diminished, his respect for Max and the team had grown. Still, he didn't trust human judgment alone. "Your creatures can find things, but they can't think like we do," Resk had muttered when they landed. His skepticism lingered, though he stayed quiet, reluctantly relying on Keen and Max's instincts. "Focus," Keen urged, her voice steady. She could feel the weight of the situation bearing down on them. If they couldn't stop whatever force was targeting the Erythra colony, the loss would ripple across the entire sector. The Council would not tolerate failure. Hours passed in tense silence. Max sniffed ahead, his pace slowing as he approached a partially buried structure beneath a dune. Keen noticed Rex growling lowly as he stood beside the Labrador. Luna circled the area, barking softly, her eyes trained on the sandy terrain. "What is it?" Keen asked, stepping closer. Max sat, ears perked up, his gaze fixed on the mound of sand. He didn't move until Luna joined him, nudging the same spot. It wasn't long before Keen realized they had stumbled upon something unnatural, something buried beneath the shifting desert. Resk, standing at a distance, watched them cautiously. "Another one?" he muttered, his voice filled with suspicion. "Yes," Keen replied, drawing a scan from her wrist device. The readings were inconclusive, no energy signals, no detectable technology, but the dog's behavior spoke volumes. Something was buried there. Something alive. With cautious steps, Keen began to dig through the sand, using her hands to clear away the fine particles. The others joined her, working as the sun baked down. They couldn't be sure what they were digging up, but they couldn't ignore Max's instincts. Finally, after several hours, Keen hit something solid. Lifting a metal panel, she uncovered a strange object, an ancient, skeletal-looking device, pulsating faintly with a dim red light. It wasn't like the device on Corvio 5. There were no alien symbols, no clear instructions. It looked ancient, almost as though it had been buried by the sands of Erythra for millennia. "What is that thing?" Resk asked, stepping closer, his eyes narrowing. "I have no idea," Keen admitted, scanning the device again. "But whatever it is, it's tied to the disruptions. I can feel it." Max circled the device, barking softly, his ears flattening as if sensing something more than they could see. Luna and Rex stayed alert, their noses twitching as if detecting something beneath the surface. Resk stepped closer, his eyes narrowing as he studied the device. "It's old. Too old. Maybe even older than we are. The surface primitive. But this energy signature, it's unlike anything in the Council's records. We need to figure out what it is," Keen said, determination rising in her voice. "And we need to do it fast." As they examined the device, Keen felt an unsettling realization creeping in. The destruction wasn't accidental or coincidental, it was deliberate. The unknown force targeting the Council wasn't a rogue faction or one of their enemies. It was something ancient, something buried deep beneath the surface of Erythra and Corviel 5. And if they couldn't stop it, the entire Council would pay the price. Resk finally spoke, his tone somber. "The Council thought humans were a threat to the universe, incapable of understanding what lay beyond their own world. But what if they were the ones we should have feared?" Keen didn't have an answer. All she knew was that the conflict had become much larger than they'd anticipated. Whatever this ancient force was, it wasn't going away. And the dogs, those expert threat sniffers, were the only ones who stood a chance of uncovering the truth. The sun was setting over the barren landscape of Erythra, casting long shadows over the dunes. The device they had unearthed remained dormant, its eerie red light flickering weakly. The tension among the team had reached a boiling point. Keen stood in silence, her gaze fixed on the horizon, the weight of their mission pressing down on her shoulders. Resk leaned against a nearby boulder, his usually sharp eyes distant. Max, Luna, and Rex sat silently, their attention trained on the silent, pulsating object before them. The dogs had become their guide, their senses sharper than anything else the team had at their disposal. Yet, even they couldn't fully understand what was unfolding. Keen took a deep breath. The silence was unbearable. "We need answers," she said, her voice cutting through the quiet. "This can't continue. The Council won't wait. They'll send more forces, more warships, unless we stop this." Resk nodded slowly. "And what if we can't stop it? What if this, whatever it is beyond our understanding?" Keen turned to him, her eyes hard. "We don't have a choice. If we fail here, it's not just the colony that dies. It's the whole sector. And beyond that, the entire galaxy." She stepped closer to the device. Max stood by her side, his ears low, sensing her uncertainty. The dogs had been the only constant in their quest, their intuition sharper than any technological scan they had. Keen knelt beside the device, running her fingers over its surface. The red light pulsed again, flickering faintly. She could feel the weight of its ancient energy, like something vast and ancient stirring beneath the sands of Erythra. "This isn't just technology," she murmured. "It's alive. Or something close to it." Luna whined softly, nudging Keen's leg. Max sat beside her, resting his paw on her arm as if offering silent reassurance. Rex circled the device, his head low as he sniffed at the ground. "The dogs," Resk said, stepping closer. "They've been leading us this whole time. You trusted them before." Keen looked up at him, a spark of realization lighting her eyes. "They've been sniffing out the truth, haven't they? Whatever this is, they're keyed into it." She turned back to the device. They had no understanding of its origin, its purpose, or what it was capable of. But the dogs had sensed something they couldn't. "Max," Keen called softly. The Labrador perked up, his head tilting. "Lead us. Find whatever connection you're sensing. We need to understand this." Max's gaze fixed on the device, then back to Keen. His sharp nose twitched, and with a deep, deliberate sniff, he started to move. The others followed, unsure of what they would find. The group moved cautiously across the sands, following Max's trail. The sun had fully set, and the desert was bathed in the soft glow of distant stars. The pulsating light from the device was now a faint, distant reminder of what lay buried beneath the surface. As they neared a rocky outcropping, Max stopped abruptly. He sniffed the ground, then turned to Keen, barking softly. Luna whined again, her ears flattened as she stood beside him. Rex remained tense, his eyes scanning the horizon. Keen knelt beside Max, studying the rocky terrain. "What do you sense?" she asked quietly. Max sniffed again, his ears twitching. Then, with a surge of energy, he took off running, bounding toward the outcropping. "Max! Wait!" Keen called, but he didn't stop. They followed him through the rocky terrain, the wind howling through the crevices. The dog's heightened senses led them to a narrow cave entrance hidden beneath the outcropping. Max disappeared inside, with Luna and Rex close behind. Keen and Rex exchanged a tense glance, then followed, their flashlights illuminating the dark, narrow tunnel. Inside, the air grew colder, and the pulsating red light grew stronger. They could feel it, vibrating through the very ground beneath their feet. It was deeper than they had anticipated, deeper than they had feared. Keen knew they were approaching the heart of whatever this threat was. The realization hit her hard. They weren't just dealing with an anomaly or an ancient device. They were up against something older, something buried beneath the surface of the galaxy for millennia. Resk moved beside her, his expression grim. "They thought we were unworthy of warning," he muttered. "That humanity had no place among the stars. But maybe we're exactly what they feared." Keen didn't respond. She couldn't afford to doubt now. They had to keep moving. As they reached the heart of the cave, the source of the pulsating light came into view, a large, ancient structure half buried in the rock. The red light pulsed in rhythm, illuminating the worn, alien surface. Max sat silently beside the structure, his eyes fixed on it. Luna lay close by, her head resting on Max's back, while Rex stood guard. Keen approached cautiously, scanning the device. It was no longer dormant, it was alive. Energy crackled faintly from its surface, ancient runes flickering in and out of existence. "This is it," Keen said, her voice a whisper. "The source of the disruptions." Resk stepped closer, his expression hard. "And what do we do now?" Keen didn't have an answer. She could feel the weight of the ancient device, the knowledge it held, but it was beyond anything they had faced before. All they had were the dogs, those expert threat sniffers, who had led them to this point. Max stood beside Keen, his head raised as if silently urging her to trust him. The other dogs were alert, watching the device with keen intensity. Keen took a deep breath and reached out, placing her hand on the ancient structure. The energy surged through her, overwhelming and unfamiliar. In that moment, she realized something. The ancient force they had uncovered wasn't something to be feared, it was something to be understood. The dogs had led them here, not to destroy, but to connect. "Humanity might have been dismissed as unworthy by the Council," Keen said, glancing at Resk. "But maybe we're not the ones who need saving. Maybe we're the ones who need to save it." The red light flickered one last time, illuminating the faces of the team. They were no longer certain of what lay ahead, but one thing was clear: they weren't alone. And perhaps, the dogs weren't just sniffing out threats, they were guiding them towards salvation.